I just returned from a ride a little while ago. I guess that was the last ride that I'll do on the big sprocket for a while. I rode to the top of the mountain and back, but it's about to be gun deer season here, so I probably should stay off the mountain until deer season is over, and that will be in January. So I'm going to put it back on the small sprocket for primarily road use. So I'll be able to do some off-road, but nothing super heavy. But I've been working on it the past few days, and 1 week ago today I took a pretty serious, fairly long-range off-road trip, and bouncing over the rocks and so on. And the rack that I built on the back of it, which the seat was also partially mounted to, broke off. And well, it broke off on one side anyway, so it was kind of hanging when I was coming back down the mountain, bouncing over the rocks and everything. I felt it on the left side start bouncing up and down, and then I've looked at it, decided, I could probably make it home the way it was. And then probably half a mile further, the rack fell down onto the tire. So I had to, again, effect a trail repair using zip ties, and managed to cobble it together enough to get back home. But at that point I decided I usually didn't even use the rear rack anyway, and what little I did use it, I could get by without it. Now, so I removed it. Anyway, I removed it and I put a new seat on it. I've had this seat bouncing around for a while. I had intended to put it on my Sportster, and then I decided not to, and thought about putting it on the XL250, but then I came up with a need for another seat on this, so I got rid of the ugly seat that was on it, that was all duct taped up and everything, and made a mount and put this on it. And it's got multiple adjustments. Right now I've got it set up pretty well, and the first ride I took didn't work well off-road. It worked okay on the road, but off-road it was a liability. But I've got it set up really well now, and like I said, I went up the mountain a little while ago, and it rides great. I mean, as far as balance and being able to reach the ground when I need to, but being able to have the proper riding stance for off-roading, it worked really well. And I think it'll work okay on the road too. I'm going to find out anyway, because like I said, I'm going to put it back on the smaller sprocket for a while and use it primarily on road. But gave it kind of a bobtail look. Eliminated the metal rear portion of the fender because it really wasn't doing anything for me, and I shortened the pipe by several inches, which really kind of killed my bottom end torque, although it feels like it added a little bit of top end horsepower, but bottom end torque is where it's at. So I put a thumb screw in here in the outlet from the muffler, turned flat ways into the flow to give it some more back pressure, because I could tell it needed more back pressure from the way it sounded, the way it ran, and it made it quite a bit louder. And so I just did this today, and the bottom end torque seems to be mostly back. and it still feels like it's got a little bit more top end power. So that'll probably be a good thing. I do kind of think maybe I'll cut it at a slant here and eliminate the turn down part, because it's blowing down onto the ground, and it's got, even with that thumb screw in there, it's got more pressure at the exit, and so it blows up dust on the ground. So I'll probably, cut it at a slant right about there, so it will it'll be, shooting a little bit more back instead of straight down. But I did that because I got to looking at it, and with the rack on it, it looked okay. And I mean, I admit it, I did that for looks. I don't normally do things for looks, but looks are okay as long as it still works well. And once I took the rack off of it, this thing was sticking out to the end of the tire, and it looked pretty stupid. So figured I would experiment with it a little bit. You guys have probably seen the video where the front rack broke down onto the tire, and I had to fix it with zip ties. Well, I fixed that. I bent up some steel bar stock, and also another problem was that I had the headlight above the rack, which severely limited my ability to use the rack. So by mounting the rack higher and more solidly, that's not going anywhere. It works well. I've got the full use of the rack. I can load it up to this high if I wanted to. Just as long as it's not too high that I can't see over it. And the headlight's hanging down here below it, so that's not going to be a problem. I'll probably add a second light. This is a spotlight. I'll probably add a floodlight or a fog light or something, which will work well for off-road use. Maybe, kind of a low beam, high beam setup. Oh, and I changed the tank. The tank that was on it looked pretty cool. It looked right and everything, but ultimately it just didn't have enough capacity. And so if I went on, even though I was getting 100 miles per gallon, sometimes better, if I went on a long road trip, I had to bring extra gas. And I probably still will. But I put this tank on it so that I can go farther. I don't know what the capacity of this one is, but it's probably about double what the other one was.